I shorted Nvidia stock today, and I wanted to share my analysis that led to this big decision. Nvidia needs no introduction unless you've been on an island with no internet connection for the last couple of years. They are an excellent company, and their semiconductors are the best. But the stock has gone parabolic, and the stock price has gotten way beyond reality, in my opinion. The analysis I'm going to share with you is what led to me putting a little money and skin in the game to see where this stock ends up. Overall, I continue to believe that Nvidia is one of the smartest tech companies in the marketplace, but I just believe it's a pretty high price to pay for a semiconductor company. The semiconductor industry is cyclical, and they're experiencing great times right now, but I just don't expect those great times are going to last for the next 10 years. But if you look at the stock price, it's certainly priced where they will continue to grow at these rates for the next 10, 20 years. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, before I jump into my analysis, let me just remind you I'm an individual value investor. I do not recommend that you buy or sell NVIDIA stock. I don't recommend that you short NVIDIA stock. I don't recommend you trade NVIDIA stock. I'm just sharing my experience as an individual value investor, and I provide no financial advice. Let me get into the fundamentals of NVIDIA and cover this company, which I've known of and I've owned their stock, but it's been a long time since I've owned it. NVIDIA is the premium semiconductor company, and that's an understatement. They have a $2.85 trillion market cap. And to put them in the class with Microsoft and Apple, that's quite an accomplishment for NVIDIA. Congratulations. But if you look at the Microsoft business, that's a well diversified business in technology. They're making money from large businesses, consumers. They have advertising businesses. They have Activision for gaming. They have Xbox. They have a well rounded business, and they're not cyclical. They suffer from downturns, but not to the extent that the semiconductor industry tends to suffer downturns. So to put them in the same class with Microsoft, I think something's broken. One of the two stocks is out of place. Either Microsoft is worth 6 trillion or Nvidia isn't anywhere near a valuation of $3 trillion. I think it's more of the latter. I think Nvidia is a great company, but in a year or two, we'll see that this stock is going to be much lower. The revenue is 60 billion, and that's after they've really had great sales. There's a big data center build out for artificial intelligence. That's real. And it's a real build out that's going to last maybe a year, maybe two. But once it's built out, you don't have to rebuild it over and over again every year. And at the growth rates that are being priced into the stock, it's expected that, hey, we're actually going to accelerate and build out more data centers. Well, how many companies are going to need to build large language models? How much of this infrastructure is going to continue to be needed? I happen to think that it's going to be a real nice 2-year run, maybe a little longer. But once it's reality that, hey, once it's built, we're going to have a steady business potentially, or maybe even a declining business for NVIDIA, then I think it's going to be quite painful for stockholders. Overall, analysts say it's a strong buy, but analysts believe that it's overpriced. So I don't think anybody will argue that this stock price and the market cap is really high, surrounded by a stock market that's really expensive. So the chances of this stock continuing to go up, it's just really hard to imagine that. But maybe it'll happen. Now, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And when we look at NVIDIA, we're seeing an incredible parabolic move. The stock not too long ago was trading for $34 a share, up to about $100 a share 3 years ago. And now it's trading at $1,136 per share. Incredible rise. But with that incredible rise might be just too much market momentum. And I'll compare them to two great companies that built out similar build outs in their time. The first one being Intel. Intel built out the PC market. Their semiconductors are primarily in PCs, and they were the leader. And we went from the 80s, where just about nobody had PCs, to the 90s, where everybody was getting a PC. And it was, including yours truly, I got my first PC in the 90s, as well as everybody else. And that demand was just incredible. The demand was real. The business was real. The growth was real. Intel just got on a growth trend that is incredible. And their stock price went parabolic. This was a real business with real growth, with real profit, with real cash flow. It was real. And they were the leader. They were the 1,000-pound gorilla in their industry. But the stock price got too high and it came crashing down. And it's never recovered that stock price. That happened in the year 2000, 24 years ago. It's never recovered the stock price after 23 years. So that's one example. The second example, when the internet was being built, Cisco Systems was the leader clearly in technology for networking. Their routers were the best. And when we think about the internet being built, you had to build it out for big governments, big companies, big everything, airports, cities, infrastructure, everything. So the demand was real, and investors got really excited and just thought the world of the company, which is Cisco's a great company. I think they still are arguably the best networking company in the world. They're certainly one of the biggest. And their stock price got way too high and it came crashing down. And it's never gotten back to that stock price. So history doesn't repeat itself exactly, but I think that we're going to live to a day where Nvidia is going to have a similar chart. They have the beginnings of that chart, but to think that this stock is going to continue to go up, it's already closing in on 3 trillion market cap. I think that's not going to happen. And I'm starting a short position on the stock because I think that this stock price will be a fraction of the current stock price in the next 2 years or so. Now, looking at their fundamentals further, the forecast that we're seeing for the stock, a lot of analysts cover Nvidia. And it's almost the group think is happening. There's a lot of peer pressure, I guess, to really be excited about the stock. I imagine a lot of investors have to be in it or they'll be criticized by their customers or clients. But even the analysts, they're like, they cannot keep up with the stock price. The average stock price that analysts believe it's worth is at 1,094, and it's well above that today. So, I think that the stock is really set to come down. The forecast that I use in my valuation is a very ambitious forecast. I'm not kind of, treating this company as, hey, this is just an ordinary company. No, it's a high growth company. Absolutely. And I'm using a very aggressive, optimistic forecast in my valuation that I'd like to share with you. When I looked at the Nvidia stock, I used the most ambitious cash flow forecast I could believe in. This is if they catch all green lights for the next 4 years, this is what it's going to look like. And it will rival Microsoft and Apple in cash flow. The growth rate is really incredible. They're already at a very high free cash flow level. And I think if it continues for the next 4 years, the growth rate, this is the valuation I'm basing it on. I don't know that it's going to go 4 years, but I'm going to be as optimistic as I can be. And then they're going to keep those cash flows in the future. So they're going to have an aggressive growth in cash flows, and then they're going to maintain those cash flows, which would be out of the ordinary for semiconductors. Semiconductors are cyclical. You have boom years followed by years that are lean, of lower revenues. Is that going to happen in this case? Are these data centers going to be built out and then they have to be renewed and refreshed and all the fees have to be paid to Nvidia? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of money to spend on Nvidia GPUs. I think companies, if they can, would like it to be a one-time event, because if they have to pay for it ongoing and all over again, it might consume all their IT budgets. Nonetheless, I'm going with the most optimistic forecast for cash flows. And even doing so and using a reasonable discount rate of 8%, since they have a very good balance sheet, the value of those cash flows, I can only get to about $1.6 trillion. I add cash and take away debt, and I stay around 1.6 trillion. But we're now, and I can't even keep up with the market cap of this company. We're now dealing with a company that is at 2.85 trillion. So this stock price is just really, really out of control. 43% premium on Nvidia after I use just a very aggressive forecast on cash flows. Earnings per share is a very fantastic 25 with a PE of 36 and a 5% growth rate on that. I get to a stock price of $943. And I treat free cash flows as the primary valuation method for myself. Earnings per share equates to about a third of my valuation, and it gets closer to the stock price. It only has a 17% premium. But collectively, it's got about a 34% premium on a forecast that I think is very optimistic. And that's what leads me to start a short position on Nvidia. Now, I could be wrong about Nvidia. We will see. We will see. I've been incredibly impressed with how the stock has really grown and where the company's gotten to in the market cap. It really is fun to see. And I also wish I'd bought, $100,000 of Nvidia 2 years ago. I didn't. So congratulations to all the people that did. Congratulations. And I wanted to share my analysis and my feeling on the stock. And I hope you found it interesting. Again, I'm just an individual value investor, and I am not recommending that you sell Nvidia stock, buy Nvidia stock, you short the stock. I'm not recommending that you buy any options on Nvidia. I'm just sharing my experience, and I provide no financial advice. Good luck investing in 2024. Thank you for watching.